As a part of our assignment based on the subject international trade and enterprise, we have chosen a topic based on the patterns of trade in two countries between India and China, and we are a four-member group. Me myself, Nirmal, KATWAL, and SANTOSH ADHIKARI, MAHESH TIMILSINA, and SUBASH KARKI.
Hello, hi, it's me SANTOSH ADHIKARI, student number OLI2873. As a part of the assignment, I am here to give the introduction about the assignment and the project. Please, can you change the slide? Here, since after the global economy, the World War II, the economy of the world has significantly increasing and the growth can be analyzed. All the growth can be analyzed after the Second World War. Second World War is the factor where the globalization is occurring and everything is changing in the global world scenario. This has been based in the changing pattern of trade and reflect the current change in the global economic structure. As per the recent data analysis, we can identify that 1/4 of the entire global production is exported. And also, in regard to this research, we are doing the research in the trade pattern of India and China. It means that all this research is based on the trade pattern of India and China. Change slide. Here, in this introduction phase, we are going to introduce about all the research, we are going to introduce about international trade, what is international trade, the import, export, and two phases of the globalization. That is before 19th century and after the World War First and World War Second. For the next slide, I'll directly ask my next friend to come and give the introduction.
Hello, this is MAHESH and my student ID is KTM2115. Today I'm going to discuss about international pattern trade of India. So we'll be discussing about why and how international trade started in India and the reforms in the trade pattern and policies, the linkage of WTO and GATT, consider the pharmacy of the world and the comparison of past, present, import, export conditions. So first of all, I would like to discuss about why and how international trade started in India. As we know, India is the biggest country in the world, but we can analyze that India is a newcomer of development in the it involves in the world trade only after 1991. Before it was a closed economy, and because of the balance of the payment crisis, it lent the money from international monetary fund and the World Bank. So after that, after 1991, it started its world trade journey. So what kind of reforms in the trade patterns and policy applied by the India? So in the year 1991, the Indian government has made some significant change in the policy on the trade. So it changes in the policy on the trade, the tax and tariffs, the foreign investment, and also under the name New Economic Reforms. And it has also the linkage between all trade organizations and general agreement of on trade and tariffs. So it also considered as the pharmacy of the world, because it is to mention that the change in the terms of goods and services, the types the India export. Like in earlier times, oil still account for 20% to 35% of the net expenditure of import each year. So today the country is also considered as the pharmacy of the world. And if we compare the past, present, import export conditions, the India came 30 years ago, about 60% of the import of the India came from OECD nations and only 15% of the OPEC ones. So during that time, 8% of the total import of the India came from Eastern European countries and 18% from the developing ones. So this was for the international trade pattern of India. Now I'd like to call my next friend to give further presentation. Thank you.
Hello, I'm SUBASH KARKI. My student ID is OED 2936. Now I will be continuing the rest of the slide. Now I will be discussing on international trade pattern of China. China was a closed economy. Then after it was open for trade around the world, it started trading around the world. Then it get WTO membership in 2001. Then after it get WTO agreement in 2001, it increasingly trade treaty and relation around the world. It started free trade with many nations around the world. Trade volume increased to $18.7 billion from $4.8 billion in 2005, with an estimated increase of about 6.72%. Then similarly at 2008, India and China became the largest trading partner. China emerged as largest source of import to India, as many other developing and developed nations of the world, but India has always maximum trade deficit with China, as China was exporting more amount of good to India, while India was exporting a less amount of good to China with compared to its import. Similarly, trade between these two economies declined by 3.5% during the first 5 months of 2019. This has resulted due to the trade war around the world and due to some border dispute. This international border dispute conflict between India and China. Now it is expected that the volume may across this year, the international trade volume may cross 100 billion in 2019, and this will be a mark. It will be like a trademark between the trade pattern of India and China. So this is all about the trade relation between India and China. Thank you, everybody. Now my friend will continue the rest of the slide.
Change the slide, please. I'm again back for the remaining presentation, and the topic is factors responsible for changing the trade pattern in the countries. Mainly, it is here that some various factors like trade barrier and other import-export factors are considered for the factors that are responsible for changing the trade pattern in these countries. These countries mean the India and the China. Here, the barrier to trade has influenced the balance in between the trade of import and export of the India. There are several policies that have restricted the import and subsidies export, change the price of those services and goods, and has been made various progress in this field. Apart from this, the trading structure of China is also related for the changing pattern of the trade in China. The trading structure of China is related in the fast growth and development of the foreign trade. Similarly, China has also pursued some export-oriented economic policy and has become a big trader in the global market. India and China are the leading countries in the today's world for the trade, and their changing pattern are influenced in overall global economy of the world. From all these research, we have found that the traditional there are two types of theory: the traditional and the modern. In the traditional Hexan-Olin theory, it predicts that these two nations export the labor-intensive world in the global market. This theory further predicts that will be a high level of overlapping or similarity in between the export of India and China. Both the countries share their unique features, and both the countries are aggressively doing their best in the trade. That's all from my side, and remaining part will be concluded by my friend. Thank you.
Thank you, rest of my members. Now I'm going to discuss about the conclusion, and my student ID is 4LI2876. So in conclusion, we already have discussed about the India and China. They are already developed country, and they are already into the range of in the trade. They are almost higher in the trade pattern in comparison to other countries. So there are some of the list of the conclusion that we have drawn out from our analysis. The pattern has been changed since the last 3 decades. As we already know, since the Second World War, the international trade has really increased in patterns of others. So similarly, import of India has expanded faster than its export, and the volume of trade has increased in the past 30 years, with an average annual rate of 18.1% for the export and 17.7% for the import. Similarly, India has negative trade balance with the China on continuous basis since few years. So there has been a significant shift from the labor-intensive technology to the capital intensive technology. Thank you.